When we shared the news that I was expecting, my sister-in-law tried to pull something cruel at my husband's party, but it ended up backfiring on her big time. She wound up getting arrested and eventually divorced. I've been married to James for 8 years now, and I truly love our life together, except for one big issue: his sister Olivia. She's been a constant source of negativity in our lives. Now, don't get me wrong, I actually liked Olivia when we first met. But that changed fast. Over time, I realized just how toxic and manipulative she really is. Knowing what she's like, I spent years trying to stay on her good side, hoping it would make things easier. Back when James was 16, he dated one of Olivia's best friends, but that ended because he felt like he was being pushed into it by Olivia. Later on, when he was 22 and single again, she tried setting him up with another one of her friends. He wasn't interested. When that didn't work out, she got all emotional and complained to their parents, saying she wanted James to marry someone she approved of. But his parents didn't take her seriously and didn't entertain the drama. While James and I were getting to know each other and falling in love, his folks were really supportive, but Olivia, she was distant and cold toward me right from the beginning. She had this weird habit of constantly bringing up James's ex-girlfriends whenever I was around, talking about how great they were doing and hinting that he should reach out to them. It kept happening. Even James thought it was strange and asked her to knock it off. So it wasn't just me noticing it. But instead of backing off, she'd get defensive and start mocking me, saying I was insecure and that James deserved someone better. She'd even go as far as inviting James's exes to family dinners when his parents had us over. She'd claim she just happened to run into them and felt obligated to be polite. It was pretty clear she was doing it on purpose. Olivia doesn't follow me online, but she's always the first one to watch my Instagram stories. Since my account is public, I noticed it pretty easily. And if a guy ever left a comment on one of my photos, she'd run to James and complain that I was posting inappropriate stuff, though honestly, James and I would just laugh it off. Back when James and I decided to move in together, she tried to convince him to break up with me. She told him I wasn't good enough and that she could find someone better for him. That stung, especially since I'd always tried to be kind to her. But once James and I got engaged, things got even worse. When we announced our engagement, everyone around us was cheering and happy, except Olivia. She just sat there quiet, then suddenly stood up and left without saying much. Later, she called James, crying and yelling, saying she should have heard the news first because she was closest to him and it hurt to be told with everyone else. Not long after that, she sent me this strange message, borderline threatening, telling me how I needed to treat her brother, since she was the only woman who'd ever truly been there for him. Honestly, the message gave me chills. I didn't reply, I just left it on read. I'm sure that made her even more upset, but I wasn't about to get into it. After that, every time we saw each other, she acted like I didn't exist. But for some reason, she stayed involved in all the wedding stuff, dress shopping, the bridal shower, you name it. Even though my future mother-in-law and James both called her out more than once, she kept making digs about the wedding and criticizing my choices. It didn't stop. One day, while I was chatting with James's mom about centerpieces, Olivia overheard and immediately jumped in, mocking my taste and saying it looked cheap. Then she added that this was why she always wanted her brother to marry someone else. That was the last straw. I lost my cool and told her straight up that she wasn't welcome at the wedding anymore. I was done with her constant put-downs. She looked shocked, like it had never occurred to her that I might actually stand up for myself. Even my future mother-in-law supported me and was clearly fed up with her. Later, Olivia called James, crying and saying I had humiliated her. She told him he needed to control me because I was going to be his wife. But James stood his ground and told her he had my back. He made it clear she wouldn't be coming to the wedding unless she apologized. Eventually, she sent me a text that sounded like a real apology, but it was definitely sent through gritted teeth. I saw her message and just left it on read again. I was already worn out from wedding prep and honestly didn't want to get dragged into any more of her nonsense. Still, she did end up showing up to the wedding. I figured it was better to let her come than deal with her bad-mouthing us afterward. Everyone else followed the pastel pink theme we picked without a hitch. But not Olivia. She showed up looking like she was heading to a funeral, black dress all the way down to the floor, even had a veil. I'm not kidding, we were stunned. She went around telling people how heartbroken she was to lose her brother to another woman. At the reception, James pulled her aside and asked her what was going on with the outfit. Instead of owning up, she said she could wear whatever she wanted and tried to act like I was controlling everything. She flipped the script, trying to play the victim. But after she kept stirring up drama, my in-laws finally had enough and asked her to leave. It was embarrassing for everyone. Since that day, I've kept my distance from her. When our son Ethan was born, I made it clear Olivia wasn't going to be around him. She pushed back on that, but thankfully James's parents stood by me. They understood exactly why I didn't want her near my baby. A couple of years ago, Olivia had a miscarriage with her boyfriend Logan, and it hit her really hard. That was a tough time for everyone, and even though we already had our own child, James and I felt for her. So we decided to ease up a bit. We started letting her come around Ethan more. And I'll admit, despite how she's been with me, she's actually been sweet to our son. Honestly, that surprised me. At first, it seemed like she'd turned over a new leaf. But before long, she was right back to her usual ways, complaining nonstop about how hard her life was, blaming everyone from old friends to past bosses for her problems. I started to realize she never takes responsibility for anything. She's always trying to get people on her side by acting like she's the one being mistreated. In arguments, she'll never admit she might have been wrong. This year, she got engaged and sent out invites to everyone except us. James and I were caught off guard, especially since things had seemed better between us. When we asked why we weren't invited, she said she was worried I'd cause a scene at her wedding. That really threw me. I hadn't done a thing to her. So I called her up and asked what was going on. She admitted that she wore all black to our wedding on purpose and said she was afraid I might pull something similar at hers. That lit a fire in me. I told James straight up how manipulative she was being. After talking with his parents, James decided to make it clear to Olivia they wouldn't be coming to her wedding, and they sure wouldn't be paying for it either. Olivia burst into tears and blamed me for the whole mess. But Logan, her fiancé, stepped in and told her she had no right to be pointing fingers, especially after admitting what she'd done. Olivia still tried to justify it, saying I needed to let it go since our wedding was years ago. Later on, she reached out to apologize and asked me to forgive her. Her parents still hadn't offered to help with the wedding, so I'm guessing that had something to do with it. And I hate to admit it, but Olivia can be real smooth when she wants something. I decided to move on and let it go. Her wedding to Logan went off without a hitch, and we all attended and had a good time. But less than 5 months later, Olivia showed up at our doorstep complaining her marriage was falling apart. James and I let her stay with us for a few days. She spent most of that time venting about Logan and their issues. Apparently, they were having trouble trying to have a baby, and Olivia put all the blame on him. I tried talking to her about it, but she made it clear she thought it was all his fault. When she wasn't ranting about him, she was overly focused on our life, picking at little things and stirring up drama where there wasn't any. For example, I usually hit the gym early before work. If I'm running behind, I'll grab my work clothes, finish my workout, take a shower, and change into my business stuff right there. Olivia had noticed this pattern and started asking all sorts of odd questions, like why I needed to shower or why I even bothered going to the gym at all. I didn't think much of it and just told her I liked staying in shape and didn't want to be sweaty at the office. She'd nod, sometimes weirdly licking her lips. Then one day right at lunch, Sarah, our friend, started talking about someone she knew who was getting divorced. At lunch one day, Sarah was talking about her friend who left her cheating husband and walked away with half his stuff. That's when Olivia suddenly cut in and asked my husband if we'd signed a prenup before we got married. We just froze. Stopped eating. She looked straight at James like I wasn't even there. James told her plain and simple we didn't sign one. We both make good money and didn't feel the need. No fuss, just honesty. Olivia snorted and said he could get blindsided one day. Cheating happens all the time. That hit a nerve. I asked her what exactly she was trying to say. She didn't hold back. Said I was always carrying a change of clothes around and going to the gym, so I must be meeting someone else. She claimed it was her duty as his sister to warn him. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Thankfully, my in-laws, Tom and Linda, jumped in and tried to stop her from running her mouth. Told her to stay out of other people's business. But she just kept going, saying she was only looking out for James. Then, out of nowhere, she joked about whether Ethan, our son, was even his since he doesn't really look like him. I saw James's face turn red. I've never seen him so angry in my life. He looked Olivia dead in the eyes and told her she wasn't a mother and didn't deserve to be one. Said her child would be better off in heaven than raised by someone like her. Olivia just stared stunned. Couldn't even speak. Linda and Tom stayed silent while James kept going. He called her a shameless mess who was trying to ruin everything because her own life had nothing to offer. Told her flat out she was a loser, doing nothing all day while her husband worked his tail off. He said she was just projecting her issues onto us, and maybe she should focus on her own failing marriage instead of asking us about prenups. She started crying and turned to Logan, her husband, looking for support. But he just sat there. Didn't say a word. That outburst from James, it wasn't like him. Olivia eventually ran off to the bathroom sobbing. James was still fuming. I grabbed his hand and tried to calm him down. Linda joined us too, trying to help. He apologized for what Olivia said about our son and I nodded. After everything she'd put us through, I was honestly relieved he stood up for me in front of everyone. He cooled off after a while, apologized to Logan, but completely ignored Olivia. After that lunch, we cut off all contact with her. Her drama wasn't just affecting me anymore, it was weighing on James too. We blocked her everywhere. If she wanted to talk, she'd have to reach out first. That afternoon, Linda and Tom pulled us aside and said Olivia had crossed the line. They saw how their usually calm son had lost it, and they blamed her for pushing him too far. We haven't spoken to her since. That was a year ago. And you know what? Life's been peaceful. Then 2 months ago, I found out I was pregnant. Total surprise, we hadn't been trying. But we were excited. Felt like a blessing. We decided to announce it on James's birthday. Linda and Tom planned a big backyard celebration with close friends and family. It was shaping up to be a perfect day. Then Olivia showed up. She heard about the party from someone else and just decided to show her face. When we saw her, James and I were both stunned. She walked right up to James, gave him a hug, said she missed him, and apologized for their last conversation. Then she turned to me, but James stopped her and said if she was really sorry, she needed to apologize to me. She nodded and looked me in the eye. Said she'd been going to therapy for a few months and realized how wrong she'd been to treat me that way. I didn't buy all of it, but I nodded anyway. I figured I'd be polite, especially with everyone around. It was James's birthday after all. Linda and Tom came over and told us quietly that if we felt uncomfortable, they'd ask her to leave. They didn't even know she was coming. But James didn't want to make a scene, so we let it go. Still, it was strange. Olivia was laughing and chatting like nothing had ever happened. She said she'd been seeing a therapist, and part of me wanted to believe she was getting better. But the way she was acting, overly cheerful, overly friendly, just didn't feel like the Olivia we knew. Not even close. When it came time to cut the cake, James stood up and gave this beautiful speech. He said he felt like the luckiest man alive and was thankful to spend another year with someone like me. I blushed hard. Those words meant everything. After all these years, we were still as in love as we were when we first started dating. Then we decided it was the right moment to share our big news. With big smiles, we told everyone we were having a baby. There was this moment of silence, like everyone needed a second to process, and then the room just erupted with cheers. My mom ran up and hugged me, crying happy tears. Tom clapped James on the back and he was crying too. Everyone was thrilled, asking if we had any names picked out. Well, almost everyone. Olivia stood out like a sore thumb. She looked completely stunned. Her whole expression changed. She turned away and looked irritated. I thought maybe she was just processing it slowly. Honestly, I was a little worried she'd try to ruin another one of our big moments, but people kept coming up to talk, and I let it go. At one point, I got up to help my in-laws with the food, but my parents and James insisted I sit and rest. So I stayed put, waiting for James to bring me a plate. That's when Olivia walked up, smiling real wide. She said she wanted to serve me herself because she was so excited about my pregnancy. She handed me a dish and said she wanted to make up for all the times she'd been awful to me. I nodded and gave her a polite smile. She walked away. I was about to eat when I noticed there were shrimp on the plate. I'm highly allergic to shrimp. And Olivia knows that. I was shocked she'd give that to me. I shook my head, stood up, and went to get my own food. That's when Logan, Olivia's husband, came over to congratulate me. We chatted for a bit, and then he noticed the plate in my hand and asked why I wasn't eating. I told him Olivia must have made a mistake and gave me shrimp. He said, "Well, I love shrimp. Don't let it go to waste," and took the plate from me. I smiled, thanked him, and went to fix myself another plate. Not even 5 minutes later, Logan started coughing. Then gagging. People stopped eating, watching as he stood up and stumbled. He looked panicked, pointed at his throat, then at the plate. Everyone rushed over. James and Olivia were first. Logan collapsed. Just collapsed right there. We all froze. Olivia ran over to check his plate, and her face went pale. She turned to me, shocked, and asked, "Did you give him your plate?" I nodded. Someone called an ambulance and they rushed Logan to the hospital. Olivia was a mess, crying uncontrollably, but she kept glaring at me the entire time. Like I'd done something. Later, we were told Logan had been poisoned. When I heard that, I felt like the room was spinning. That plate had originally been mine. If I'd eaten it, it wouldn't just have been me, it could have hurt my baby too. James, Linda, Tom, none of them know this part yet. No one knows for sure what was in the food that caused Logan to collapse. The police were called to collect evidence from the dish. Logan's still in the hospital as I write this. Olivia stayed with him overnight. Now everyone's calling, asking what happened, trying to figure out who poisoned Logan and how. Linda and Tom are so shaken they're sleeping over at our house, they're scared to go home. And I'm scared too. The plate was meant for me. Olivia served it to me, all smiles and apologies. And I know I'll have to tell the police the truth if this turns into a full investigation. But more than that, I'm terrified of what Olivia is capable of. I feel awful that Logan ate that food and got sick in my place. But I can't pretend it was some innocent mistake. She knows I'm allergic. She gave me that plate on purpose. And I don't want to be anywhere near her. I won't let my kids near her either. It feels horrible to say it, but I honestly believe she was trying to hurt me. And if Logan hadn't stepped in, it might have worked. I honestly never thought this post would blow up the way it did. When I first wrote it, my hands were shaking. I hadn't slept. I still haven't. Despite what everyone said in support, I still feel partially responsible for what happened with that plate. I keep thinking, why didn't I just throw it out? Why did I let Logan take it? I've cried more times than I can count. Logan's future, the pain he's in, it haunts me. My husband knows something's wrong and he hasn't left my side. He thinks I'm just stressed from the pregnancy. He doesn't know what I know about his sister. I felt scared, that's why I needed to sit down and tell everyone the truth. The one silver lining in this whole disaster? My in-laws have security cameras all around their house. Since the party was in their backyard, there had to be footage. So tonight, I sat down with James, my Linda, and Tom over dinner. They were already staying with us, so I told them there was something important we needed to talk about. I took a deep breath, the weight of everything pressing down, and told them everything. How Olivia brought me the plate with shrimp. How Logan took it instead. How he collapsed. I told them I was scared for myself, my baby, and what Olivia might do next. At first, they were shocked. Just like I was. Linda and Tom looked at each other with alarm. James's face changed from confusion to anger. I could see it in his eyes, he was starting to understand just how serious this was. Then Linda, practical as ever, suggested we check the camera footage. Tom agreed without hesitation. So we pulled it up right there from their app. There it was. Clear as day. Olivia smiling, handing me the plate. The same plate that ended up putting Logan in the hospital. There was no room for doubt. No, maybe it was a mistake. We all saw it happen. The room fell into silence, all of us trying to process what we just seen. James looked like he was going to explode. He couldn't believe his sister would do something so cruel, so calculated. Linda and Tom were horrified. Not just shocked but ashamed. Their daughter had tried to harm me. She could have killed Logan. She could have hurt their grandchild. After a lot of silence, Linda and Tom decided to hand the footage over to the police. This wasn't just a family issue anymore, it was criminal. Now, since Logan was the one who got sick, he would have to be the one to press charges. Tom and James planned to visit him as soon as he was out of the hospital. I couldn't stop crying. I felt so guilty. Logan had no idea that he'd eaten my plate. I don't know how he'll react when he finds out. I've barely eaten since. I barely sleep. I can't stop thinking about it. After everything, Olivia was arrested. Once my in-laws gave the footage to the police, things moved quickly. Olivia didn't even deny it. She broke down crying the moment they confronted her. She admitted to everything. Logan was just as stunned as the rest of us when James told him what had happened. My husband also told Logan something I'll never forget. No matter what you decide, you'll always be family to us. And he meant it. James encouraged Logan to press charges. What Olivia did wasn't a prank. It wasn't a moment of poor judgment. It was evil. After Logan recovered, he agreed. He pressed charges. And he filed for divorce. Olivia didn't take it well. She called Linda and Tom, crying, begging for forgiveness. Then came the twist no one expected. Olivia's pregnant. She tried to guilt-trip her parents, saying they needed to think about their granddaughter. She begged them to bail her out for the baby's sake. But honestly, after everything she's done, that ship has sailed. After everything, Tom finally told Olivia what she should have heard years ago. It's time you take responsibility for your actions. We're done coddling you. And while Linda is understandably devastated, she also knows that what her daughter did cannot simply be forgiven. The police uncovered undeniable proof. Olivia did tamper with the food. It was intended to hurt me, and it ended up hurting her own husband. She's now facing multiple charges: reckless endangerment, intentional harm, and food tampering. Serious stuff. Despite everything, Olivia still tried to manipulate her way out. She kept begging Logan not to press charges, blaming me for the whole thing. But Logan, thank God, stood firm. He wants justice. Her court hearing begins soon, and I doubt she'll be able to weasel her way out this time. Meanwhile, my son and I are doing okay. He still doesn't know what his aunt did. He's just a child, and we want to protect his innocence. But James and I have agreed, when the time comes, we'll sit him down and tell him the truth. Carefully. With love. It's not a conversation any parent wants to have, but it's necessary. As for the pregnancy, my doctor has me going in for ultrasounds every 2 weeks. We've decided not to find out the baby's gender. We want it to be a surprise. A bright spot at the end of all this darkness. My own parents have been more protective than ever. They're worried about how all this stress might affect my mental health during the pregnancy. And honestly, I am too. I'm functioning but not fully. Ever since the incident, I've developed this fear of eating food I didn't make myself. It might sound silly, but I just can't trust anything I didn't personally prepare. My husband understands, and he's been incredibly supportive. I'm hopeful this fear will pass in time. It's been a while since I last posted. A lot has changed. Olivia? She was found guilty. I never attended the court hearings, but my in-laws kept me updated. Apparently, Olivia confessed everything in court. Years of bottled-up jealousy. She admitted she never wanted me to marry her brother. She always pictured one of her friends ending up with him. When James started dating me, she resented me from the start. And when we announced my pregnancy at his birthday party, the same day she had planned to reveal her own, she snapped. She said she wanted to steal the spotlight back. That she felt we'd taken her moment. Her hormones, her anger, her twisted logic, it all came together, and she added a small amount of rat poison to the food she gave me. She swore she didn't mean to hurt the baby. She claimed she only wanted me to end up in the hospital. But she didn't expect Logan to be the one who ate it. She actually argued for a lighter sentence because I had technically poisoned her husband. The judge wasn't having it. She's been sentenced and will be locked away for quite some time. Logan is finally free. Their divorce went through, and he's been doing so much better. We still see him often and make sure he's included in our family events. He told me very sincerely that none of this was my fault. I cried when I heard that. I told him how many times I'd replayed it in my head, me handing him that plate, wishing I could go back and stop myself. He told me to let it go. And he meant it. And now the biggest news. James and I welcomed our baby girl. She is joy. She is light. After everything we've been through, her little giggles are the most healing sound in the world. Our son Ethan is the sweetest big brother. Watching him hold her tiny hand or bring her his favorite toy just melts us. He's protective, gentle, loving. It reminds us of what really matters. Our families, my parents, James's, have been by our side every step of the way. Through betrayal, heartbreak, healing, and now a new beginning.